Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Pragati Vichar Literature Festival Authors Marathon 2022. Today, I am joined by the CEO and co-founder of Frontlist Media, Mr. Kapil Gupta. He's recently launched his book, India Vision, The New Age Equality. He is more of an entrepreneur, but for the writer he has always been, he has had some great insights on each and everything that he has written about, especially the concept of New Age Equality. Welcome to the Authors Marathon, sir.
Thank you so much, Atanya.
Sir, I will straight jump up to the questions, but before I rather move to my questions, I would basically first want to know that what is the idea of New Age equality?
So, really, the idea behind New Age equality is to look at equality from a 21st century paradigm. What we are doing so far is we are living in the 20th century and or the 19th century for that matter. In the 19th century or the 20th century, the rich used to have their way. The poor used to struggle. The ones in the mainstream, so the what is called as the big boys club, used to get everything, and everybody else had no mechanism to receive favors, to receive stuff, to be equal, to be treated equally. And hence we entered into an era where we started providing subsidies, where we started providing freebies, where we started providing special privileges to people that came from variety of different groups. That all was done because the acceptance of society across these different people and even the basic notion for them to be treated as equal was not there. Now, I'm not suggesting we are fully there, but we have made huge strides in that. I mean, really, we have made huge strides in that. I run multiple enterprises where we treat women not just equally, we pay them 100% equal salary. Now, if I'm treating everybody equally and paying equal salaries, then why are we talking about subsidies? Why are we talking about special privileges? Why are we talking about anything else? And that's, I mean, I'm just using women as an example. That question goes to caste-based, any kind of privileges. That goes to LGBTQ communities. That goes to all different stratas of the society. Now, I am not suggesting we should fully end all privileges, subsidies, and everything else. What we really need to look at is to very closely define who should get it. I mean, the person who is, for example, senior management in a company, why should she get to get, luxuries or special privileges when she's traveling in a metro? A person who, doesn't have that level of equality in her life, maybe yes. Why should a person who is getting equal salary get pregnancy break, for example? I mean, I know a lot of people have a problem with me saying that, but really, why would I as a company, I as an entrepreneur, if I stand for equality, why will I give somebody pregnancy break? That's a personal choice that a person, a woman made with her family, with her husband, with the government maybe. Let them pay for it. Let them cover up for it. Why am I being held, for them? Also, what has happened is from an era where we used to look at equality and special privileges and subsidies and all because of because of the nuances in the society and because of the struggle all of these people used to have, we have become extremely sensitized to it, and now they have become the mobs. I mean, for the life of me, I can't understand how can a mob be allowed to sit outside Delhi for a year and a half, and previous to that, how can a mob be allowed to sit inside Delhi for 6 months? Okay? It's just incredible. So for me, new age equality means you need to start treating everybody as equal. No subsidies, no special privileges, no nothing. No, nothing special, nothing new, nothing open for them. It's all, everybody is treated equally.
But sir, for the dynamics India has always had as a country, what do you think would be the impact of this new age equality, especially on the youth, and now for the people who are starting their lives as working professionals?
Sure. See the impact of new age equality, and as I said earlier, you need to start being very careful about where you draw the boundary lines. Uh, uh, a person from a lower strata or a person from a lower caste born in Delhi. doesn't have to suffer because of their caste. I mean, really, they don't have to suffer because of their caste as much. A person whose father is an IAS officer gets subsidies because it is provided to their caste. A woman whose parents did everything that they could to ensure she gets equal education talks about subsidies, talks about breaking the glass ceiling, talks about XYZ. What it essentially means is for everyone to come on the commons, on the same platform. And by the way, it is not an India problem. It is a global problem. I have the same reaction when I hear a Black Lives Matter protest, or when I hear reparations for what happened in the 16th and the 17th century. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, you need to move beyond that. You need to start gaining acceptance for everyone as equal. I think equality need to start now. It can't be a future paradigm. It can't be something we will look at a later date. It need to start now. In some of the more rural areas, maybe there is a case to be made that certain level of special privileges, certain level of subsidies, certain level of special support may be required, but definitely not in urban areas, definitely not in a lot of places, definitely not with a huge amount of segment that currently goes for it. And what happens is the fact that these people who are already empowered in their own right, the fact that they start using these privileges and subsidies, it devoids somebody else from using it.
So, sir, can it be said that the idea of new age equality is rather a balance between the establishment of equality and equity in the Indian society?
Yeah, you could definitely say that.
And when it comes to establishing equality for people at a standard level, where do you think the LGBTQ stands in terms of the benefits it can avail from this scheme of new age equality?
Sure. See, I have always maintained who fucks who and who gets fucked by who is attracted to who and who is not attracted to who, should not be a public business. That's a private area of choice that an individual has. Okay. To that extent, I don't think LGBTQ should even be a category in that. I understand there have been biases that have happened in the past, and I'm sure in a lot of places there are biases that happen even now. What need to happen is that LGBTQ, the higher strata of LGBTQ, first need to become sensitized and first need to say, I am equal. For the life of me, I from this day forward will not use any subsidy, will not use the fact that I'm LGBTQ to go forward in my career, will not use the fact that I belong to or I have certain preferences. I wouldn't use it to my advantage. See, I'll give you another aspect of LGBTQ. There was a point of time when it was frowned upon for somebody to be LGBTQ. Okay, it was considered that if it's a deformity, and we all understand it is not a deformity. It's a question of personal choice. Okay, you could say it's a question of biological choice as well, but I would even enable that biological choice within the arena of personal choice. What I don't want to do, which is starting to happen now, is I don't want to make LGBTQ as a woke idea for people to use it because they want to further their career. I want that to actually remain a people choice. So earlier, it was frowned upon for people to be LGBTQ. Today, it is in vogue. So earlier, many people who are LGBTQ will not come out and say they are LGBTQ. Is it that today many people who are not necessarily LGBTQ will come out and say that they are LGBTQ because they get special discounts, special privileges, special subsidies? Equality is equality. Your gender, your caste, your religion, your personal choices, your sexual preferences, none of this should have any role to play in how you are treated in society. For me, that is equality. And that is where we need to start. At least now. I mean, we are sitting in 2022 now. At least now we need to get there.
So as much as we are advancing rapidly, and this idea of new age equality, as much as it makes sense in the modern times, where do you think the media can possibly tweak it in its own ways and rather get masala out of it and actually completely miss its whole concept of what it is and how can it benefit people as a whole?
See, media definitely in all call it social changes or in all social conversations, in all social rhetoric, media has a huge role to play. Okay, but the sad part of everything is media is not state owned. Media is not non-profit venture. Media is a pure 100% for-profit venture where the only intention of the media house is to ensure they get the maximum eyeballs and maximum revenue. So, yeah, media has a role to play, but media doesn't play that role. Media works on rhetoric to be said. Media works on looking at what is the agenda that they want to put across for their personal benefit.
So, like as much as media plays a role for its personal benefit, media actually has a great potential to literally skyrocket this concept. Do you think the modern media would actually do it?
Uh, well, it's a two-part question, at least for me. One, should the modern media do it? Absolutely. Will the modern media do it? I don't think so. See, first of all, I'm able to say a lot of this because I don't give a shit. I'm not scared of anybody. Do you think the conversation I'm having about LGBTQs and the conversation I'm having about women and the fact that we need to take some of the special privileges and some of the luxuries that they get today, do you think the feminists of the world and the LGBTQs of the world are going to be happy about it? They will crucify anybody. They can't crucify me because I don't care about them that much. I don't care about people's opinion in that sense. I have always been a very firm believer of freedom of choice and a more firmer believer of freedom of speech. And I would respect everybody's rights within that freedom of choice and freedom of speech, and I would expect everybody to respect my right to have my own preferences, to have my own choices, and to have my own opinions about things.
Sir, now that we bring up the freedom of choice and freedom of speech, how do you think the Indian politics, or at least the modern Indian politics, would react to this, and how would it change provided this new age equality is adapted in the Indian society?
So modern Indian polity is not ready for it, okay, because it is contrary to their structure and their system of getting votes. So to that extent, I think what the conversation that we are having is a little ahead of its times. And that is what makes me even more excited about it. We have to get there. I mean, I'm not suggesting the polity is ready. Anyway, the polity is always the follower in all social changes. It is never the leader. So it's a change that we guys need to bring about everywhere. Okay. It will come about. I mean, the polity and everybody will give acceptance to it 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. But we, at least the intellectual few, at least the ones that understand this, and I once again will say, the empowered women, the empowered people from the castes that have faced oppression over the ages, the blacks, if I go to the US, people who have come from oppressed backgrounds and have made something out of themselves, the first thing that need to happen is for them to get out of this conversation about equality being subsidies and privileges and discounts. That's where it need to start. So polity, I don't think it's there. I don't think it will get there. It will always be a follower in such conversation. They will accept it when, whether it is the youth of the country or whether it is the middle-aged people of the country. But when people in the country stand up and they say, we don't care about the sexual preferences, the gender, the caste, the religion, this, that, and the other, is when the polity will stand up and say, oh, this methodology of gaining votes doesn't work anymore. Let me look for a different agenda. Let me look for and set out a different rhetoric. And that is where the conversations and that is where the polity will move. But it has to first stand. It has to first come out of people like us.
So India is a nation of youth. A lot of Indian politics depends on youth. Do you think youth is ready to accept this?
Well, 75% of Indian youth, and I'm using the word 75%, you can look at the statistics and maybe it might even turn out to be a little bit more. But 75% of the Indian youth, in some way, shape, or form, uses privileges in their life today, uses discounts in their life today, uses special subsidies in their life today. Why would they want to give it up? That is where the conversation has to start from the right places. The conversation has to start from people who want to do good. Okay? It's not in its natural order of the day today, it doesn't make sense for 75% plus of people. And I'm in that, of course, I'm including the women population as well. For more than 75% of the population, it doesn't make sense. How do you get there?
So you and I, of course, there is possibly a big generation gap between you and I. How do you think, if today, being a part of the youth culture, if today I am ready to give up my share of privileges and my share of discounts, where do you think in a decade from now, I, along with other people, other youth, can stand in terms of standing together as a nation?
See, where will we be as a nation? We would be more progressive. For sure, we will be more progressive. Where would you be as an individual? Well, you missed out on a subsidy or a special privilege that may have given you something. So, from a pure numbers perspective, from a pure riches perspective, you may not be as well off, but it's the right thing to do. Mentally, you will be more satisfied. Socially, you will be more accepted, and overall, you would have done good.
Sir, what do you think plays more part? Doing good for the nation, or doing good for yourself first and then thinking of the nation for the times we are in today?
Um, I hope they don't collide with each other. And if you really get down to it, they don't collide with each other. I think the problem that we suffer from is our definition of do good for ourselves. Our definition today of do good for ourselves is how do we earn more money? Okay, I have, and in fact, if you read my book, there is a chapter that actually talks about inheritance and how I am against inheritance. Okay. So to that extent, I don't really have a need to earn too much money. I mean, I've done reasonably well for myself. I don't have any reason to complain. I'm not an extremely rich guy, but I've done reasonably well for myself. I don't believe in inheritance. So I just need to ensure my both daughters get good education, and they get, they just get to be able to stand by themselves. After that, what they do in their life, how far do they go in terms of their growth, or how do they make a fool of themselves and really don't do well in their life, is their personal choice. I mean, I will always be there to the extent I can, but it's their life, it's their personal choice. And I think that's the because I live in that world, I don't have a problem with this. And for me, doing good for myself and doing good for the nation, and in fact doing good for humanity overall, I don't think for me there is a conflict between the three.
So, sir, this coming towards my last point, hypothetically, if we assume that this new age equality, what you talk about, say it is established in India, possibly in 10 years or 20 years from now, what do you think the face of the nation would be it in terms of the politics, be it in terms of economy as a whole, or be it in terms of the youth establishing themselves? Where do you think India would stand then?
Sure. See, first of all, I don't think even the thought of India implementing it by itself without the world accepting it, I don't think that's even a remotely possible scenario. Now, the conversation or the question really should be, what happens if the entire world accepts it? If the entire world accepts this approach, where we would be? We would be in the arena of equality. We would have given up our past biases. We would have given up, the wrongs of the history and turned them into rights. Not done more wrongs, but turned the wrongs of the history into rights. Given everybody the same platform, given everybody the same, set of opportunity, and given everybody the same sort of ability to grow in their life. Now, by no means is this a pure socialist agenda. And when I say socialist, I definitely am talking about the current definition of socialist. Socialism, my definition is, is slightly different. So this is definitely not a current socialist agenda, because in my world, in the way I approach equality, people will be able to use their ability, their special skills, what they can do to further themselves. Not what their father could do, not what their grandfather could do, and not what their great grandfathers took away from other parts of the society. But really, the conversation will focus on what that particular individual can achieve and can do for themselves. And that really for me forms the fundamental of equality. Now, I would give you that much. It's not going to be 0 or 100. We will always live in between somewhere, but we need to go focus more on towards equality versus farther away from that.
This actually brings me to one interesting observation, if I may say. Your book, if the people from the right wing say that your book is more supporting the left-wing people, the left-wing people say your book is more supportive towards the right-wing people. So what do you feel on that?
See, if I have to classify, I will say I am a centrist dot on the line. Okay. Really, I don't move either to the left or to the right at all. The leftists and the rightists, in fact, align every once in a while to some of the agendas and to some of the thought processes I have. And they hate some of the thought processes I have. And to that extent, they keep talking about whether, I as an individual am left-winged or whether I as an individual am right-winged. For me, the conversation has to start from this one single notion of everybody being treated equally. Not in the socialist or the leftist. So the rightists have a problem with equality, okay, because it takes something away from them. But my notion for equality is not everybody getting everything equal. It is everybody getting the same set of opportunity and then taking it forward. Some will win the race, some will lose the race. That is a thought that the leftists hate when I say that, because it essentially means that I'm talking about ability, I'm talking about merit, which makes me a right wing. So as I said, I'm dot on the center line, neither even a bit to the left nor a bit to the right.
That was really an interesting conversation, a mind-boggling one rather, I would say. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you with us today, sir. Thank you so very much for being with us today here.
I think this session won't be complete unless I co-founded Frontlist Media and of course conceptualized the concept of Pragati Vichar Literature Festival with my team. I don't think this conversation would be complete without me asking people to show their support, which they have done tremendously so far, but to show their further support, to show their love for the authors, specifically the newer authors, specifically for the debut authors, and to participate as much as possible in events such as Pragati Vichar Literature Festival. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so very much, sir. It was an absolute honor to have you here. Thank you.
Bye.